Hey guys. Okay, so I gotta be completely honest with you all. This was probably in my opinion, one of the best episodes of the entire season. And I know that's not a very high bar to reach, but on top of having some pretty great art and animation, albeit with it dipping a little bit in quality in certain moments, in certain little moments throughout, I feel, unlike with the other episodes that focused on a singular member of the League, this one gave a little more proper time to Shigaraki's backstory, and kind of did better at balancing it with the fight against Re-Destro. Whereas with others, it kind of just focused. It was so focused on the fight that the backstory didn't have enough time to breathe. But this one I felt had way more time to breathe. But that in itself also comes with a realization that might be even a bigger problem moving forward, which is, well, I have rejected the notion outright that Bones hates the villain aspect of the series. I think in some respects they have sacrificed it for the sake of focusing on the main villain Shigaraki. Now, whether or not that's going to be a trend that continues into season 6, or whether it's just an outlier moment because of how poorly paced this season has been, remains to be seen, and I don't know which one to believe right now, frankly. Like, especially after this episode, like, again, despite any technical problems this episode might have, it is still such a 9-day difference compared to something like Twice's episode, or even like, or even though I like the episode, even something as simple as pretty much as Toba's episode, like there is a difference there. In how it was handled. With that being the case, though, let's talk about Shigaraki's backstory in itself, because I think I mentioned this when reading the manga, but Shigaraki's backstory definitely took the Joker's line, "All it takes is one bad day," to heart, because in some respects, that's exactly what happened with Shigaraki. He grew up in a fairly normal, somewhat loving household, but one that also constantly rejected him. And the moment his quirk awakened is where, within that single flashing moment, everything in his life literally and figuratively crumbled to the ground. And honestly, the emotionally broken reaction Shigaraki has towards killing his dog, and then killing his family one after the other in sequential order without even having any time to realize what's going on. Like, Shigaraki's reaction in this moment is a realistic one. Any kid who bears witness to something like that, even if they're not responsible for the act itself, is going to end up traumatized in the same way Shigaraki was. And it is, and it's kind of ironic, but ultimately Kotaro made the exact same mistake his mother did, except from a slightly different outlook. Nana, for however deeply flawed her reasons were for giving Kotaro up for adoption, was to protect him, but in Kotaro's case, by holding on to his bitterness towards his mother, he was never able to reconcile those feelings, and because of that, when it came to Shigaraki, when it came time when Shigaraki needed someone, when Shigaraki needed someone to be there, and when his son needed him the most, it just and to just tell him it's going to be okay. In the ultimate moment, Kotaro, all he could do was look upon his son with fear, anger, disgust. Kotaro just could not be there for his son, even in his final moments. And ultimately, like the only one who was there for him was his mother. But unfortunately, his mother wasn't enough. Everyone just flat out rejected. The only one who ever loved him was his mother in the end, when you look at it. Although, just to keep it fair, Nana isn't even though Kotaro is you can put a lot of blame on Kotaro for this. Nana isn't exactly free from blame here either, as unfortunately, when it comes to Shigaraki, he is an exemplary example of Nana's greatest failure. Because while her attempts to distance herself from her family to protect them did have noble intentions, she is, from a certain point of view, responsible for everything that's happened in the story thus far. Because when you get down to it, just like Kotaro, if she had just been there for her grandchild, embraced him, told him it was going to be okay, then maybe she could have not only prevented him from walking his current very dark path that he's on and continuously embracing, but actually protected him from All for One, which is the ultimate irony of Nana's legacy. By thinking that distancing herself from her family would protect them from All for One, it actually provided the biggest window of opportunity for All for One to swoop in and really be the only one aside from his mother who was there for Shigaraki when he needed someone the most. And with what we learned with what we learned of this episode, that it's really kind of heartbreaking to really think that just like Izuku, Shigaraki once upon a time genuinely idolized All Might Nana, even to the point of them becoming his drive to be a hero as well. But the moment that All for One came into his life and said, "I'm here for you," it was the start of his path where those ideals, those beliefs became twisted. Now, I have praised this episode just for that past flashback, obviously, but if I were to have any legitimate criticisms to talk about, one is that while I recognize it would have screwed up the pacing a little bit, there was a missed opportunity on Bones' part in this episode in order to give us the moment they cut out of the beginning of this arc, where the League was basically at their lowest point and hiding out and just overall just showing that the League had become a shell of their former self. And of course that wasn't until Spinner basically spoke up, told Shigaraki to step up and show the world the League's vision for society. And with this being the episode where we get Spinner's fight, I mean the fight isn't over yet, so there's still an opportunity in order to use that moment as a flashback. But I did feel it was a bit of a drop ball not to even incorporate it as a flashback into the fight, and I want to wait to see how it all plays out from here if they're still going to incorporate it. But if they don't, then it is going to be a major drop ball on their part, because it's at that point that it's going to make me think that it's the scene that'll remain on the cutting room floor, which is the core missing piece of this arc in the anime, that it isn't showing that all this is from Spinner's perspective. And while they have tried to compensate for that in certain scenes and moments in this arc, I just feel it'll all just feel somewhat hollow without that missing piece, honestly. Also, while I do like how the pace and visual aesthetic of the episode was handled, overall, I'm not the biggest fan of how the anime handled Re-Destro's stress form, because in the manga, Horikoshi got freaky with it and made Re-Destro look like a horrific monstrosity. But in the anime, it just looks like an oversized and over-muscled suit of armored flesh. Which I guess in itself is creepy, but still a little lacking and underwhelming. And honestly, if it is one of those times that makes me wonder aloud how different he would have looked if the animators had more time to work on him. I mean, I came to the conclusion a long time ago that when adapting a piece of manga into an anime, it will always be somewhat lacking compared to the manga's artwork. But would Re-Destro's form still have been this lacking, or somewhat more like grotesque, is what I wonder, kind of thing. So yeah, that it's just one of those things that I'm kind of wondering out loud. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll, and be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.